Hello YouTube and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. My name is Kevin and in this video I'm going to be discussing the second anniversary of the terrorist attacks at Charlottesville in Virginia. So back in August 11th and 12th of 2017, of course, there was the Unite the Right rally, which was stoked by, the alt-right, white nationalists, etc. I would argue the government in fascist Russia had a role in promoting it, of course. And they marched on Charlottesville. And, we've all seen what happened. They basically were able to descend the city into anarchy, literally. The police of the county, when this happened, were ordered to stand down because the alt-right, they brought guns, so the police weren't going to enforce the law. So they basically created anarchy within the United States. They made a pocket of lawlessness within the United States. And they proceeded to, within that pocket, commit terrorism against the United States. They murdered Heather Heyer. Now, Heather Heyer, of course, she committed her life to fighting fascism. She's an American hero. She's a hero of the West. She's a hero of liberalism. And she was murdered in the cause of fighting these neckbeards and everything. And I know that a lot of media outlets talk about this. There's a lot of attention paid to Charlottesville and the aftermath and the reaction by the Trump administration. But I don't want this to get lost on people that this really is, fifth column rant at its height within our societies here. The alt-right at that rally, when Donald Trump came out and said, there were fine people on both sides, well, that is in essence the same as coming out in the 1940s and saying, hey, look, World War II, there were fine people on both sides. Like, there were fine people around Hitler and there were fine people around Roosevelt and Truman. No, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. I mean, if you want to talk about false equivalences, that is about as egregious as it gets. I mean, you had anti-fascists go up against fascists, and the president's reaction was to equivocate and to draw false equivalence and say, hey, look, there were good fascists and there were good anti-fascists. No, there really aren't. I mean, if you're going to identify as a fascist, if you're going to call yourself a National Socialist, you're not a good person at all. You're scum of the earth. You're human filth. Now, I'm aware, of course, and I'll have a video on this at a future date, that there are people who use violence in Antifa. Of course, right? There were people who used violence in the U.S. Army against the Nazis. It's a war. Violence is perpetrated. That's how war works. This is one thing that I want to get across here is that we're in a war. We're in a battle in terms of politics. We're in a battle of ideas. We're in a battle of establishments between Washington and the Kremlin. But we're also in a physical street battle when it comes down to a lot of this. Now, myself, I'm a liberal capitalist. The Antifa people would call me, an ultra far right chud. I get called that a lot when I get into arguments and stuff with them. But I see their usefulness. They are still useful. They are, a buffer against these fascists actually seizing power. Because I can tell you, if there were no Antifa and there were only these Unite the Right neckbeards, they would soon find themselves met with no resistance, and instead of marching on the streets, they would soon seek to claim and usurp political power. So it is important that we have people like Antifa getting into it with them on the ground because it keeps them from ever having a chance of approaching the corridors of power because they can't even necessarily hold the streets. So now in this case, they of course resorted to terrorism. One of their neckbeard incels, he used a car and killed Heather Heyer with it. and injured many more people. Again, I want to make this very clear. We fought a war with fascism. We defeated fascism in Europe. We killed a lot of people, firebombed a lot of cities, destroyed a lot of military material, and ultimately forced Hitler to kill himself. We engaged in a total war with fascism back in 1941 to 1945 in the West, and in Canada from 1939 to 1945. The thing is, when it comes down to all of this, the fact that it can be 2017 and we've gone from being an alliance of countries that are willing to sacrifice lives to fight fascism to having the leader of the free world, as he's called, equivocate and say that there are plenty of fine fascists. Yeah, that's really far downhill. I mean, imagine if this was, say, 1943 and a bunch of Hitler sympathizers came out in Virginia and murdered a woman. How do you think that would end? Do you think that, it would just be the president would come out and say, oh, everything's fine. There's some good people on their side. There's some good people on the other side. No, they'd be rounded up as enemy combatants, right? I mean, some of them would probably be executed for sedition, right? I mean, that's the thing. These are seditious fifth column people. If you are in the alt-right, if you are in the crowd of people that are sympathetic to the terrorists at Charlottesville, the Unite the Right rally, you are seditious. You are a fifth column. You are an enemy of the West. You are someone who should, at the minimum, be ostracized. But I would argue detained as an enemy of the West, because we are in a battle. We're in a Cold War. We are in a Cold War with fascist Russia. And back when we were in a Cold War with the Communist Soviet Union, we had people like McCarthy round up suspected communists, put them on trial, and, have to denounce communism and denounce other communists. We should be doing similar to fascists today. Like, if you're in the alt-right and everything, you should be rounded up for anti-American activities, absolutely. And you should be investigated, because we can see very clearly what the statistics are. These people commit the vast majority of terrorism in the United States. They kill people. Their sympathizers egg them on. They go on forums such as 4chan and 8chan and others, and they drop their manifestos and they get encouragement, and then they go out and commit their acts of terrorism. And this goes on, and we're aware of it, and we have feckless isolationists in power that refuse to do anything about it. They are feckless. I have so many issues with FDR. FDR was a socialist. FDR was someone who admired Stalin. He was not a good guy. But he at least understood that you still have to fight fascism. Donald Trump doesn't understand that at all. In fact, he's retweeted a tweet from Benito Mussolini, who was basically the founder of fascism in its modern manifestation. The line about how it's better to live a day as a lion than a life as a sheep or whatever. I mean, if you didn't know where that tweet came from, okay, whatever. But no, I mean, if somebody studied the death kitsch of fascism, their culture of, the whole warrior culture and everything, you understand the ramifications of what he's saying, because he's not saying that in the sense of we as the West need to seize the day and stand up for ourselves. That's not the context that he's using it in. He's using it in the context of apologetics towards fascists and neckbeards and authoritarians and Putin fanboys. Isocuckery. He's using it in an anti-Western context because he hates American values. He feels more comfortable in a room surrounded by despots, illiberal autocrats, and dictators than he does in a room surrounded with people like Angela Merkel, Justin Trudeau. He has nothing to say to him. He doesn't know how to handle himself. He just twiddles his thumbs and feels uncomfortable and is awkward. But when he's in a room with his buddies like Kim and Putin and Xi and the other communists, he's in his element. He gets to hang out with the cool kids. No, he's un-American. He's anti-Western. He is an isolationist. He plays into the interests of the Kremlin over the interests of DC and the Pentagon. And it is imperative that the Pentagon gets serious about this, and the FBI gets serious about this, and the CIA gets serious about this, because I understand that the executive branch has them on a leash. I get that. I understand that you can't necessarily do that much when the president likes these guys and calls them fine people and doesn't want you to go after his base. I understand that. But they are enemies of the West. They are fifth columns. They are literally serving the interests of the Kremlin to divide and destroy us from within. They need to be rooted out 100%. They need to be detained. Because yes, the man who killed Heather Heyer, he was taken into custody. I get that. But all those other people should be viewed as accomplices. I mean, if you're somebody who marched on that rally, if you're somebody who was egging that guy on 4chan to do it, yeah, you should absolutely be arrested as an accomplice to murder, right? Inciting murder. Absolutely, 100%. And not just murder, terrorism. These things need to be taken very seriously. Otherwise, there will be no criminal deterrent, and these things will go on. And Heather Heyer won't be the last to die to these people. And we've seen in the recent shootings, of course, in Dayton and El Paso, of course, that the fascists, these fifth columns, they are intent upon wreaking havoc on our society. Because they are fundamentally illiberal. They want to destroy us from within. When I talk about them serving the interests of the Kremlin, they don't see that as something to counter or argue against or defend themselves and say, no, I'm an American. I'm not serving Putin. No, they own it. They embrace Putin. They see him as a strong dictator. They like him. They embrace Kim. They see him as a strong socialist dictator. They like him. They embrace Xi. They see him as a strong communist dictator. They like him. Because it's not about the economics. It's not about any of this. They're all socialists. They're all socialists. It's about race. It's about nationalism. It's about, and not nationalism in the sense of, America's number one. They see America as degenerate. They see America as a liberal cesspool. They see Russia as number one. They see North Korea as number one. They want to be like North Korea. They want to be autarkic like North Korea. They want to be isolationist like North Korea. They want to be totalitarian like North Korea. They live and serve and dream of selling their souls to a god emperor who will tell them what to do. And they're willing to kill. They are black shirts. They're brown shirts. They are the people who are the most likely and fastest to sell out our civilization, and we need to get serious with these people. Because don't get me wrong, I believe in a due process and everything. I believe in having trials. These people should stand trial. They shouldn't be let around. They shouldn't be left to go on inciting further violence. If you're somebody on these forums who has communicated or uttered praise of people such as Elliot Rodger or the man who killed Heather Heyer, all these people out there, the El Paso shooter, etc. If you're somebody who's singing their praise and glorifying them, no, that's the same as singing the praise of ISIS and glorifying them, and you should be detained for it. Because freedom of speech does not include incitations to violence, and I would argue it should not include glorifications of terrorism either. Now, we can have a debate about that. But when it comes down to this, what happened at Charlottesville is preventable. One way to prevent it would have been, or to mitigate it at least, would have been the moment that the police refused to take action. And I'm 100% serious about this. This is unbelievably pathetic on the police department, one. But I understand it. They knew that the alt-righters, the neckbeards, brought guns. I get that. Of course. What else were they going to bring? That's what they do. They're a bunch of fascist militia. You should be prepared for that. That's your job, to enforce the law. But okay, so you're not going to do your job. The second that that happens, that's when the U.S. Air Force should step in. That's when the National Guard should step in. That's when the U.S. Army should step in. That's when their whole little camp, whatever they had in the field over there, where they, they had their water, they had all their people supporting them or whatever. That's when you bring in the F-16s. That's when you carpet bomb the place, because they are an enemy. They are serving the interests of terrorists. They literally provided aid to this guy who, he rammed his car and killed Heather Heyer and injured a bunch more people. You think his goal was to kill one woman? No, of course not. His goal was to kill a bunch of people. That's what he wanted to do. Their objective was to kill a bunch of people. This was a job for the U.S. military. The second the police said, yeah, we're not going to do anything, that's when you call in the U.S. military and you bomb the crap out of these guys. And yeah, no, the fact that this guy went to court and his buddies and everything were able to walk off more or less scot-free. I'm aware. I watched that Vice documentary. I know that they caught up with that Cantwell loser, another one of their incels. I get that. And he was detained because he was, inciting violence. No, it should have been treated as, enemy combatants at that point. This should have been treated as a war zone. I mean, the police were not going to enforce the law. There was no civil police force that was willing to enforce the law. So then it's a job for the military. The military should have gone in there. And yeah, I know that they have strict rules of engagement. I understand that. I'm just saying that guy who killed Heather Heyer, he didn't just intend to kill her. He intended to kill a lot of people. And the U.S. military, they should have absolutely bombed the crap out of these guys. They should have destroyed their base. They should have gone in. Now, maybe you say, maybe the Air Force is excessive, send in the Army or whatever. Yeah, they should have brought tanks down. Absolutely. And they should have fired a few shells. Absolutely. They should have destroyed their ability to conduct their operations. Because, again, the United States killed millions of fascist soldiers in the 1940s. We're not willing to kill, one? I mean, come on. The fact that it can be 2017... and now we're cool with fascism. Now they have rights. Now they have all this. No. They are fifth columns. They are enemies of America. They are anti-American. They should be treated the same way that Hitler was treated. They should be treated the same way the Confederacy was treated. They're treasonous. 100% they're treasonous. Their whole goal is to destroy the United States and build an ethno-state. They're anti-American. They seek the destruction of the United States government. They call the United States government the deep state and say that it's a Jewish entity. They seek the destruction. They seek a coup. So are we going to be proactive about it? Or let me guess. No, they have rights too, bro. There are plenty of fine people on their side. Sure, they want to do a coup and they want to turn us into a fascist dictatorship and have their little putsch. But they have rights too, or whatever. No. We seriously need to treat this as a war. I mean, absolutely 100% needs to be treated as a war. Heather Heyer should not have died in vain. We need to learn from this. We need to learn that at a minimum, if the police aren't going to do their job, that's when the Army does their job. And if they have to fire off a few shells in the process and, some of these white nationalists don't go home that day, they go to the morgue, good. That's a good day for America and the West, because these people are enemies, and we used to recognize them as our enemies. In the 1940s, if the U.S. Army went into a German village and killed a few thousand fascists, was that seen as bad news? Was that seen as, oh no, there were plenty of fine people over there? No, because whether you were leftist, whether you were a Democrat or Republican in America, that was seen as a victory for America. Everybody could get around and say, yeah, we kicked their ass. That was a good move. Good job to the U.S. Army. Whether you were a Democrat or Republican. But today, no. You literally have the Democrats who refuse to do anything, and a lot of Republicans who are out there singing their praise and saying how these are fine, fine neckbeards, fine incels, they're standing up for white males. They're standing up for the gamers, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Now, there are some Republicans who are repulsed by it. Bill Kristol, etc., Rick Wilson, etc. These are people who call out this kind of BS that's going on. They keep up to date, just as I do, with the talking points of these people. I browse 4chan and stuff because nobody, the CIA, I'm positive they have people on their payroll that browse these forums and see what's going on and see what the alt-right, what their discourse is and what their plans are. I get that. Yeah, but they don't do anything about it. That's my point, right? What I do is I call this kind of crap out on my channel. Now, I'm a small channel. I don't really have that much influence yet. But, this is my legacy. This is what I want to go down for. I want to be on the side of fighting fascism in the West and around the world, of course. Because keep in mind, these people are serving the interests of Vladimir Putin and Alexander Dugin to destroy our civilization so that fascist Russia can take over the world. That's their end game, of course. They are literally fifth columns. It's not like we just disagree on social issues. No, they want to destroy our civilization. They want to destroy the West. They want Russia to take over. They want a dictator to take over. They want to destroy everything that's been fought for. And so I call these people out. The thing is, we need to get serious. I mean, it's time that the CIA start seriously, going to these people's houses, having the FBI, I should say the FBI, because the FBI operates within the United States. They should be going there, and they should be detaining the most egregious of these people, the people that are stoking it. I know that 4chan, you're anonymous. No, you're not anonymous. They know who you are. They know your IP address. They can easily acquire that information. They can contact your internet service provider. They could easily go to the houses of the people that are cheering and egging these people on. Because yes, of course, everybody agrees. The man who drove his car and killed Heather Heyer should go to prison. We understand that. But we also shouldn't be having a debate over the people that are supporting him and the people that are egging on future perpetrators of this violence. It shouldn't just be the man who slams his car into the protesters. It shouldn't just be the perpetrator themselves. It should be everybody who enabled them. It should be the support apparatus behind them. It should be everybody who said, oh yeah, that'll show the libs. Go do it. They should all be facing prison sentences. They should all be publicly shamed. Their names should be plastered over the internet and the media and shown to be enemies of our civilization and should be shamed for the disgrace that they are, serving the interests of fascist Russia. And so, thank you for watching, YouTube, and let me know what you think.